Alright guys, so I'll make a video. Just started. I'm just gonna about the Nephilim. But first, I wanna say something real quick about the fall of Satan. I made a video. I will do another video on it, more detail. But I'll also get into this. But I think this will probably correlate a little bit with the Nephilim thing. Um, so everybody knows about. Most people know about Genesis chapter 6. The sons of God. Uh, Sleeping with women, making these hybrids, these giants, Nephilim, men of renown, heroes. Um, so most of you know about that, right? But I also want to point something out what happened way before that. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and a lot of people know this, how the Bible begins is with the creation account. So in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, it says, God created the heavens and the earth. And then on the next verse, verse 2, it says, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was in the face of the deep. Now, scholars and actually agree that between those two verses, millions, maybe even billions of years could have passed. The reason being is the word created in verse 1, God created the heavens and the earth. The word is bara in Hebrew. And that word bara means more than just something created out of nothing. It also means that what was created perfect. You know, and in the verse 2 it says without form and void. Now, bara created, that word bara wouldn't be without form and void. So obviously something happened in between those two verses. Um, so formless and void. That's the Hebrew word that I think. How does this? Tohu wa tohu wa bohu. Tohu wa bohu. I might saying it wrong, but again, that is not bara. That is not something that was created perfect. So something definitely happened. Now, what scholars believe. Now, this is a very good book if you guys want interested in like demonology. This is Biblical Demonology by a very good scholar, Merrill F. Unger. Merrill F. Unger, very good scholar. Uh, he says, and I do agree, that in between these two, obviously millions or maybe even billions of years passed, but it might have something to do with the fall of Lucifer. So Bara, God created everything perfect, and then Lucifer fell, came to the physical world, and corrupted it. Made it, you know, well, he corrupted it. And now, um, Merrill Unger believes that. I agree. Um, a lot of scholars actually agree with that. J. Brennan McGee, for one. John Wolford, if you know, Christian scholar, he's another very good one. They agree with that. Now, obviously, the Bible is not clear what would happen or what happened between then, those two verses. But Bara is not something that would have been full of dark. It doesn't make darkness something void. God doesn't create things void, full of darkness. That's not what God does. So obviously, the earth became without form and full of darkness. And actually, in Jeremiah chapter 4, starting in verse 23, I believe. Please bear with me. Yes, 23 to 26. In this chapter, God is scolding Israel. But also, Jeremiah, it seems, you know, the scholar Merrill Unger, and all of them, a lot of scholars agree with him. It seems like Jeremiah got a little glimpse of this world that became darkless and void. I mean, became formless and void and full of darkness. So Jeremiah chapter 4, starting at 23, it's a quick read. Now remember, in Genesis 1, verse 2, it says the earth was without form, empty, and full of darkness. So 23, I beheld the earth, and indeed it was without form and void. So now it's paralleling. It's a parallel to Genesis chapter 1. And the heavens, they had no light, full of darkness. And I beheld the mountains, and indeed they trembled, and all the hills moved back and forth. I beheld, and indeed there was no man, and all the birds of the heavens had fled. I beheld, and indeed the fruitful land was a wilderness, and all its cities were broken down at the presence of the Lord by his fierce anger. So, in this might be a glimpse of what happened here in God's judgment on a pre-Adamite world. And then after that, if you know your Bible, in verse 3, it says, God said, let there be light. Now, this light was a judgment on that world. Also, this light was also obviously a physical light, but it did not come from the sun, nor from the stars. There was no sun nor stars then. Could there have been? Maybe. Remember, there was Bara. So there could have been a universe already. Remember, it says God created the heavens. That's everything. The universe and the earth. Now, something happened and all the light went away. And then God said, let there be light, which did not come from the sun and stars. Personally, I believe this was Jesus just shining his light, judging that pre-Adamite world. Remember, Jesus also said, I am the light of the world. And the book of Psalms says that his name was there before the sun. So, that light was a judgment on that pre-Adamite world. And then you see God renovating, actually, the earth. Now, don't know how, some people believe about outer space. Whether you believe everything you hear from NASA or not. I'm not going to debate that here. But one thing's for sure. When you look at the moon, when you look into outer space, you see there's a lot of order, but there's also a lot of disorder, a lot of chaos. The asteroid belt, something was destroyed in order for that to be there. The moon, you see it is all beat up. Some scholars, J. Brenner Beginning, actually points this out, and he believes that's evidence of God's judgment on that pre-Adamite world, that pre-Adamite universe, and when he judged that world. And you see the destruction from that. Do I believe that? I'm 50-50 on that, but it's just something for you guys to think about. So going on with the Nephilim, I'm just gonna do a little. This is a startup, but eventually I'm gonna do another video going way more deeper into the different tribes of giants that existed. A lot of people hear of the Anunnaki. In the Bible, they call them Anak or the Anakim. But yeah, so Genesis chapter 6, most of you know it. Now it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them. And the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of whom they chose. Now, here's where the debate with some scholars is the sons of God. Some say these sons of God are fallen angels. Reason being that in the book of Job, chapter 1, the sons of God are shown there are angels. They are referring to angels. So they say that this is the same thing. Others say that these sons of God are just either like kings or rulers of some type with really bad intentions to begin with. Um, yeah, so like John Walver points something out that some scholars believe that these sons of God were um, men that came from the Canaanites. And I don't believe that. It doesn't make, and I agree with John Walver that the terminology makes no, it has no. If you think that's in the sense of God are just Canaanites, sons from Cain, um, it doesn't do justice to the text. It's not what it's saying. So it's not that. So what other scholars say, and I go back and forth on this, that the sons of God were just rulers or kings that were possessed, inhabited by fallen angels. Reason being is because it says that they took wives for themselves of all who they chose. But that will, in Matthew 23, I believe. No, so in Matthew chapter 22, verse 30, Jesus is speaking about angels. They're not given in marriage. So angels don't get married. So for angels to take wives here will contradict that. Um, so some scholars believe that the sons of God were just rulers or kings that were possessed by fallen angels, and then they had offspring and those offspring, because of them being possessed, were hybrid. They weren't fully human. Um, they became Nephilim, these giants, these men of renown, which means heroes. There were these heroes like Hercules and all that. I'm not saying Hercules was real. I'm just making an example. It could have been. It could have just been a Nephilim, right? But so they took wives who they chose. That word "took" means they violently took. The women had no choice, so they were basically, you know, taken by force. And then in verse 3 says, the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he indeed is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Um, and then in verse 4 it goes, there were giants, Nephilim, on the earth in those days, and also afterwards. After what? You know, so there were giants in the days of Noah, and also afterwards. So it's telling you right from the beginning that now, in the flood definitely wiped, I believe that it definitely wiped all the Nephilim out. But the reason why there were still Nephilim afterwards, after the flood, is that I believe that some fallen angels just did it again. You know what I mean? But this time God had a different plan. Instead of destroying the world, he had, Saul, David, and Joshua, Moses, all of them go into the land of Canaan and wipe them out. So there was Nephilim in those days, and also afterwards when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. They were mighty men who were of old, men of renown, heroes. So that word came into the daughters of men means exactly what you think it means. Um, and this is where I go back and forth. Were these sons of God just some kings and rulers that were possessed by fallen angels, which could be true. That very well could be true. Or was it just real, just angels disappearing as men and doing this? And the reason why I go back and forth is in verse 4 it says, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men. Like, why would you emphasize that there were daughters of men? If the sons of God were human rulers, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I don't know, overthinking it, but it's just the 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 way it's phrased. It seems like these sons of God are not rulers, but the actual angels themselves. I go back and forth, but I think the reality is that either way, the same outcome. It's the same outcome. Nephilim. That's the outcome. So so the Lord saw and the wicked. And then the God, he brings the flood, but he finds grace with Noah. Well, Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, and then the flood comes and wipes all that out. So I think I'm gonna stop there. I probably shouldn't have probably started the Nephilim thing yet, but oh well. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna stop here, and then I'm gonna make a full video about just the Nephilim and go really deep into it. Again, I'm gonna talk about demon possession, incubus, succubus, um, and the different forms or different views on the biblical demonology. And yeah, God bless. And oh, again, I cannot emphasize this book enough. Biblical Demonology by Merrill F. Unger. It is a great book, a lot of valuable information on demons and fallen angels, and all biblically based. Um, so, have a good night. God bless, and thank you for listening.